Gentlemen, welcome back to the Tiege Hanley Starting a Business, Building a Brand blog. This one, big number 355. So, you guys have all heard me talk about my mother-in-law and the fact that every day I would go over and see her. And I haven't updated you much because ever since we moved her to the memory care facility, things have not been good, right, at all. Like, she fell a few times. Long story short, she passed away on Friday, and wow, what a bizarre experience to actually be with somebody when they've passed. I've never done that before, and and I know that there's beauty in it. I just haven't found it yet because it was not peaceful, and to watch somebody kind of like struggle to breathe. It was really, really hard for my wife and I to watch. But it was in terms of timing, it was perfect. In terms of the day, like I literally got the call from my wife. So let me just back up a second. So the past 2 weeks, I guess past 2 weeks, it's been it's kind of, we've been aware that she's getting closer to passing. She was bedridden. It got to where she wasn't really opening her eyes or waking up towards the last week or eating or drinking much. And so we knew that it was kind of getting close to the end. We've also had hospice that has been involved for basically the past 6 or 7 months. Hospice care is something where you can get analyzed or evaluated. And if they feel that the person is on a decline or needs special help, they will basically come on board. And it was a great thing because it allowed us to get medication without having to go to the doctor. And they were basically advocates for us. And so as it started to get closer, it was all right, this is probably going to happen sooner rather than later. And what I was really fearful of is that she was going to pass when I was getting ready to go out to Chicago for the baptism of Antonio Centeno. I was honored to be the godfather of his daughter, and so I needed to be there for the christening, right, or the baptism, or whatever you call it. And so, going out there, knowing okay, it's getting close. I was just praying. I was like, oh God, please don't let her go because I have to go to this thing, but I have to be there for my wife, So it was this real it was real sort of It was unnerving, if I'm being honest. And then this past week, I went to Alpha Land, and that had been scheduled for a while. And once again, it's oh God, I just don't want her to go, right before or, while I'm gone. I want to be there for my wife. I want to be there for her mom, And so I went out to Alpha Land, and, I got back. I flew back, and the crazy thing is that the trip was amazing, just so you know. And we filmed and vlogged and did a. It was unbelievable, and I'll talk about that in a second, a little bit before I get to your business questions. I just want to finish the story about my mother-in-law real quick. And so our flight was at I think 5:30 or 6:30 from Texas back to Atlanta. We had to get up at 2:30 a.m. because where we were staying in Sugar Land was about 45 minutes from the airport, and then getting through security, and we had to board at 5 a.m. So Christian and I were literally on the road at 3 a.m. And we get to the airport, we hang out, and we got our flight back. And I kept saying to him, man, we should have taken a later flight. Why we did this to ourselves, I don't know. And so we get back, and my dad actually picked me up from the airport at 9 a.m. And while we were driving back, my wife called crying. She's like, it's not good. And they started end of life care for Patsy. And I'm like, okay. So I cleared my schedule, and I went there, and then hung out with her for the day until she passed at 4 o'clock. And it's just it's so bizarre. It was such a strange experience. And if I'm being completely honest, I am not great with death in terms of when I see a dead animal, there was something traumatic that happened to me when I was younger. I'll tell you that story real quick. And so we had a horse. His name was Bucky, right? And so horses and livestock, they'll colic if they like eat too much and they don't walk around and their gas like in their stomach and they die, right? Well, I go to school and I come home and there's this big mound, this big mound covered with a pink blanket in my yard. I was like, oh, and I'm running and jumping on it and it's kind of spring. Guess what? It was Bucky. My freaking horse had died. It colicked, and there I am. And my mom comes running out. She's like, Aaron, what are you doing? I'm like, what? And she pulled out. I'm like, ah. So I think that's one of the reasons why dead animals, dead things, like just like it just, I don't do well with death. I'm not a hunter. I could never like just like gut it and like I don't know what it is. But I've always thought, I'm like, man, like when she goes, like I hope she goes in her sleep, and I just hear about it. I hope that I almost like, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to, oh, hang on a second. Hang on. Hello, this is Aaron. Hello, this is Aaron. Anyway, where was I? So I didn't think that I would be able to handle it, right? Because I just didn't think I would do well. But what was amazing is that I surprised myself. I surprised myself of how, you just man up and you just do, you're there for it. And I was there to make sure my wife, was okay. And we handled it. And it was an experience though, man. I'll tell you, it's, it was intense, very intense. But it was sad, of course, but it was also a relief. For the past 4 years, ever since we moved here, it's like we've had like a special needs kid that we've taken care of. Every single day we'd go over. We wouldn't take like long trips anywhere because of, we couldn't get back quickly to help. She lost the ability to speak for herself, so nobody could like answer or help her, and and so it was hard. Like it was hard, and it's funny because thinking about it. Hang on a second. I don't want to get upset. Thinking about the whole thing, like ever since we picked her up from Asheville, North Carolina, every step, big step or big change was overwhelmingly hard. It's like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to, because it was such a change, and it was like adding just the complexity to your life that was really hard. And nothing that my wife and I had planned for, prepared for. We don't have kids. It was just hard. Everything from moving her here was hard. But then you get used to it and you fall into a rhythm and things are good. Other hard things like COVID. We basically were locked out of seeing her for about a year. And that was really hard. It was hard. And then, her falling and having to be moved to memory care, it was hard. And it was funny because when we're packing up kind of like her stuff, I saw the remote control, right? Something so stupid. But the amount of energy and effort that it took me and how much stress and anxiety when I got her a TV, like she watched TV, and at her old place, she knew this remote, she knew what button to push. But trying to explain somebody or something like this, or a remote control, and remote controls now have like 70 buttons, right? Somebody with dementia is impossible. You can't explain it and she can't remember. And so I knew that she needed a TV because she was in this new place. And so I found this remote control. I found this remote control that basically had 5 buttons. It had on, it had up and down, and it had volume. And I found, and I saw that remote and it just made me it kind of just summed everything up. It was a hard thing that we figured out that I would not take back for the world because it allowed my wife and her to heal. My wife was estranged from her mother. My wife left home when she was 16. And I met her mother literally for the first time 4 years ago when I moved her down here. But I love her. It was an amazing connection that I ended up developing with her, and just an amazing experience. And so it's sad, but it's good. But now comes the next step, right? Like, what do? I don't know. She doesn't know. We've had this this person that we've cared for 4 years, like what does the next sort of step in our life look like without it? Like we can do anything. We can go anywhere. We don't have to worry. I'm not worried about the phone ringing at 2 a.m. because something happened and she fell. And so it's going to be an adjustment, but we're okay. And like I said, it was amazing to have this opportunity. But that's it. All right. Speaking of an amazing opportunity, oh my God, Alpha Land. Alpha Land, Alpha Land, Alpha Land. So I flew out to, and there's so much to unpack from this and so much that I learned and so many times that I'm walking around this place with my mind absolutely exploding because of just, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to see what Christian Guzman has built. It is unbelievable to see sort of the tentacles that Christian Guzman has sort of tossed out there and just what has happened to the people that are around him, this facility, and the amount of business that he does on his clothing brand, Alpha Elite. Like, I don't get shocked that much in terms of like revenue or in terms of internet businesses, but it blew my mind. Max Tuning, I was on his podcast. I hung out all day with him, David, and Julia, David's fiance, and I had one of the best days I've had in a really, 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 really long time. It was so amazing to get out there. It was so amazing to just be in a different environment. We worked out. Christian came. We filmed the big vlog. It's probably going to be like an hour long because there was so much to show and so much to do. But next week, what I'd like to do is actually spend the first half of the video talking a little bit more about Alpha Land and what he has built, because it's significant. Not just that it's a big gym, but the whole ecosystem that has been created by Christian with this facility, with the people that are moving there to start their businesses and their careers, and the way that he sells Alpha Elite and the influencers and the affiliate programs. It's not like, it is so crazy that I want to do it justice, and I know that me trying to rush through it and answer some business questions is not going to, and so I'm going to save that for next vlog. Also, if you have a business question down below, start it with business question. Start it with business question and then ask your question. Next week, after I tell you a little bit about my mind being blown in Sugar Land, Texas, which is not the greatest town I've ever been to, definitely not, but he's built the Mecca, man, and it's just it is so, like, the whole thing was mind-blowing. How much he spent to build it, everything was mind-blowing. I'm going to do that next week, like I said. If you have a business question down below, start with a business question and ask your question. Now, what I would like to do is actually, and if you have a question about Alpha Land or those people, let me know. I may not know the answer, but I know more now than I did before. And so, few business questions. Speaking of gyms, a man and his thoughts. What's up, Joey? Good to hear from you. Do you think Aaron today could open a successful gym? I feel like your experience in business, now it would be a totally different business than your first attempt. So this is kind of like a loaded question. Do I think I could do a better job? Yes. Do I think I could do a better job in terms of marketing? And so here's the thing, right? So to open a gym today, if I was a fitness influencer from the start, right? If that was my thing, I would be able to, at this point, I would have probably opened a gym. Like, Bradley Martin, another one that's opened a really successful gym out in California. He's got a lot of apparel. So with that in mind, I probably would have opened it. It would have been easier to promote, and people in the area will come just because you're kind of like a pseudo celebrity. And so I think that part of it would be easier. Now, if I didn't have any social media, and you take social media out of the, actually, technically you can't take social media out of the question 100%, because that's one of the ways that you can, as a gym or a business, market and advertise and get your message out there. Oh, by the way, you know what I'm doing in like 30 minutes? My wife and I are actually going to go look at another brick and mortar business. A dude needs some money, needs some help, and it's another business that I am very interested in. And I'll tell you more about it once I know more about it. But anyway, so we're going, and it would be simply kind of like the salon a little bit, how it's like, you know, an investment in a business. We would then have equity in it and get a distribution. But setting up all these little things, gentlemen, it's all about multiple income streams. So in terms of a gym, I think I could do a much better job now than I did before. I think there were so many things that were fighting against us before. Now, some things that we had at our advantage is that there was less competition before. Now, there's a lot more competition. You've got Crunch Fitness, which I recently joined a new gym, and I got to tell you, I'm loving it because I'm inspired again. When I first went to Crunch, I went at like 5:30. And I was like, it was overwhelming because a lot of high school dudes were there and a lot of dudes apparently that watched my videos. And so I literally left in 15 minutes because I'm like, I can't even work out here. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I'm so, It was just, it was uncomfortable for me. But I'm like, maybe I can go at a different time. So I ended up going and I got a week pass just to try it in the mornings. And then I was like, I was so inspired. Like I haven't been exercising and working out in terms of weights like I had been prior to COVID. And so like one of the things that I'm trying to do now is actually take better care of myself and get in better shape. And so the LA Fitness that I was going to was completely run down. Everybody left to go to this Crunch Fitness. Crunch is actually where I started when I moved to Atlanta. A different Crunch, obviously. They've gone through some iterations as well. And I joined, and I have been loving it. I've gone like every day. It's like I'm inspired again, and I've kind of just embraced like, hey, yeah, I am. Come on, let's take a picture. Yeah, good to meet you. Great to see you. Oh, yeah, I live around here. Yeah, oh my God. So I'm like, I'm just going to embrace it. And thank God, you know, these people care enough to ask me to take a picture or want to talk. And so anyway, I think I could do a better job, but competition is fierce now, and the fitness industry is tough. You also, you know, it's gotten cheap. You know, because like a Crunch membership, like $10 a month. Back in the day, it was, you know, $40, $50, $60 for membership. You know, so yes, I could do a better job. Would I ever want to do it? The answer is hell no. The next question comes from Prada Smadra. Butcher, killed that bad boy. Will Tiege, Hanley, and B&B ever be in drugstores and supermarkets, or will it be an online brand forever? We have talked about this on a bunch of vlogs. I think some big box retailers like Target could be, hopefully, or Walmart could be in the future for Tiege Hanley. Pete and Pedro, I don't know. You know, Amazon is one of those things where we're really seeing a lot of growth on Amazon. And, you know, but something that has been brought to our attention at Tiege is that in order to be a really super valuable company to potential buyers, if we were to ever try to sell Tiege Hanley, is that the multi-pronged approach in terms of you want to be brick and mortar retail, you want to be .com retail in terms of your own store, and then Amazon is another place. But you need a healthy balance. You can't be over indexing in one versus the other unless it's like your own personal .com, because that's something that is incredibly attractive. All right. So yeah, we will, but probably not. Drugstores, supermarkets, probably not. All right, next business question. Hey Aaron, I'm a chef in Chicago, home of Tiege Hanley. I have a small amount of success doing catering on the side for extra money, and I'd like to transition into doing it full time and working for myself. I know that this may not be your area of business expertise, but do you have any advice on growing a client base? Also, there it got more. I just want to say thank you. I've been a subscriber. Okay, so thank you. Morning routine, blah, blah, blah. Express my appreciation. Thank you so much. That is a very nice, that I'm going to come back and read. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. And thank you for making delicious food. So let's talk about your business. So you're a chef, right? You want to work for yourself. You've gotten some catering. It's about networking. It's about, you know, I mean, I would personally, I would start a social media presence and profile, posting pictures of amazing stuff that you are making, right? Tag it. What's going to happen is you're going to start to develop a following. In Chicago, have a website, right? That's maybe a better place to start. Develop a website, chef less tasted or whatever it is, or less tasted catering or whatever it is. Have a place for them to actually go and contact you and talk a little bit about your services and what you can provide, right? Have a list of options for them. That's probably the best place to start. And then start socializing, start networking, start, posting, a social media, Instagram specifically. Instagram and food is an incredibly powerful platform. You post pictures, people will share it, other people that are into food will share it. Go to your favorite chef, what I would probably do is follow other chefs or other food vlogs or whatever and see what they're posting. And also have your, link of your website up in your thing. You could do videos talking about like, hey, chef tips. You could even start a YouTube channel. Like, there's so many ways for you to start to grow and expand and build your brand as a chef. And that personally is what I would do. And networking, having people refer you. You do a job, hey, do you have anybody else that you might think might be interested? But you're in a great position. But I would start building your brand. And then from there, market it and network it. Social media has made it affordable. Social media has made it possible. So use social media in terms of food because it's amazing what happens. And a YouTube channel, like I mentioned, that's another great option. Good job. Congratulations. Good luck. And the last business question comes from Gary Hernandez, Self-Defense and Urban Survival. What's up, Gary? He says, hey, Aaron, my question is, my cousin has a small business in a city for years, and the area has gone downhill with shady characters living in the area and crime is getting worse. I think that's very common all over the country in certain areas. He's wanting to move to another city. What do you think about changing the name and the look of your business in a new city? Even though you're still selling the same products, is it a good idea to keep the old style and name because you also do a little selling online, or go with something new and exciting to revamp your business? This is a great question and one that I can't answer. In terms of moving to a different city, I don't know. I don't know what the current business model or customer base is. There's some degree of breakdown of online business and in-person business. And so you're starting from zero in a new city other than the online stuff. And I think rebranding online, I think happens all the time. My buddy Eric at Beard Brand, they just recently didn't change the name, but they rebranded all like metal packaging, all sorts of, website updates and changes, for a fresh look. I think getting a fresh look is not a bad idea, but the bigger concern I have is testing the market in the area that you're going or he's going, right? Is it going to be as viable? Is it going to be as productive or lucrative? Or even though the area that he's living or he's operating now isn't necessarily ideal, is it still worth it to stay there? Now, in terms of quality of life, that's another question. There is some value to living in a better environment that isn't super crime riddled or have homeless people living, two steps from your door, because that's the craziest thing. In like Portland and some of these cities, I hear stories about, letting just, the homeless. Now, I'm not saying there isn't a homeless problem and they don't need to figure that out, but allowing them basically to set up anywhere in front of your business, that's definitely going to make it a bad experience for your customers coming in and make you not want to go shop there, honestly. And so I couldn't deal with that, not at all. I wouldn't be able to deal with it if I couldn't legally have some way of protecting, my area or my space. But I don't know. It's a great question. I think it's always fun and exciting to rebrand in terms of changing the name. I don't know if that's necessary. Maybe just, a fresh logo or something may do the trick, or a new website, or just getting some inspiration, I think could be a good thing. But in terms of moving, I don't know. I think testing is definitely something that needs to be done, but an exciting idea and option. Gentlemen, that is where I'm going to wrap things up. If you got a business question down below, start it. Business question. Also, I'm going to anticipate you guys are going to say condolences and I'm sorry for your loss. So I just would like to officially in advance say thank you very much. It means a lot to myself, my wife, and we do have a new cat though. Patsy had a cat that she brought with her that both of these facilities let her have, Boo-Boo. So we got a new cat that we're transitioning. It's up in its own little apartment room in our house. But you know, if that's the worst thing we got to deal with, we'll figure it out. But anyway, just want to say thank you for everything. Thank you for your support and love. And like I said, if you have a business question down below, start with a business question. Next week, I'll get to some after I tell you about my mind being blown at Alpha Land. Thanks for everything, gentlemen. See you next week.